Hi, my name is Araya Brown, and I'll be reading 4 poems for you today. My first poem is called I Am Becoming. As I stand on the tip of becoming, my mind begins to submerge into black, tranquil waters built of tears, made to hold up the universe. A thread of voices, thick and thin, ripple throughout my temple, separating flesh from nudges of forbidden stars that fuel this consuming fire, flickering all the light we cannot see. Within me, there is a gate, surrounded by fig trees, grounded by silent keys that bow my knees to face reality, but I am tired of standing at the tip of my becoming where everything means nothing at the exact same time. These moments of discovery unlock cycles of misery. For forgotten souls like you and me, please, try to understand this wrath that quivers beneath me. For one day each vine will grow within me, creating more than enough fig trees to shape me, to break me, to bear me, to push me over the tip of my mountain, where I will look back at myself and realize you've been there this whole time. I am becoming. The next poem I will read is entitled, I Am Gratitude. Sometimes I find it difficult to remind myself that I am gratitude. Even as the world crumbles at my feet, my hips, bloom flowers that weep. Tears, made to hold up the universe, but how am I made to hold up the universe when my flesh was made to be carried towards the sun in hell? There's this wrath that quivers beneath me, longing to end these cycles of misery. Our forgotten souls preach destiny like mountains that can't breathe, and I'm trying my best, but I can't breathe. These mountains won't leave. I long to rest amongst the stars, because I know they're watching me in twinkling defeat as I breathe death to the cosmos, death to this reality. What's wrong with me? It's hard to set yourself free when you've already surrendered to defeat, when you've already given up on inner peace just to reach. But you can't plot down empty seeds of pursuit with no seed, but I can't plot down empty seeds of pursuit with no dream. No, I'm searching for something that's greater within me. Yes, you, who is tired of searching in things that are only temporary. Can't you see? These mountains won't shrink until you accept your defeat. But even as the sun carries me back to a world that seems to crumble at my feet, my hips, they still bloom flowers, and that's enough. The third poem that I'll be reading is called The Yellow Fence. I dream of yellow-colored picket fences that surface dreams I search for outside myself. I say yellow fences, not white, because in my world, black boys look blue in moonlight as they arrive in green boxes of rum shipped from mama's hips. Colonized rum, made by buffalo soldiers who crown lions of Judah on God's throne for valleys. And did I forget to mention that blue and green make yellow, make microwavable patties from Dollar Tree, make cola pain, make spice bun, make cheese, sent by distant familiars who too are searching for home. In profit of freedom, shaded by tall yellow picket fences guarding the sun, and to be honest, I am just a girl, searching for, trying to find my way to the sun. Because in my world, Mama says the sun is God, but is God here? I am not questioning God because I believe that something is here, inhaling through the cracks of wooden floors where Mama clicks her heels, scattering gungo beans and rice into the devil's eyes, so that all he can do is listen to the colors of divine creation that tell a story, stomped for generations. Colors crafted by palms of prophets who too seek to understand the purpose in life. Colors that whisper, stop. Colors that whisper, I'm here, so that we don't have to ask, but still ask. I believe that something is here, because when rays of light kiss my cheeks, I hear angels sing, and I may not get it yet, but I hear angels sing. I look up to the sun as I hear angels sing. I may not get it yet, but I hear angels sing. And the last poem that I will be reading is called Silent Voices. I often have trouble sleeping because I hear silent voices in the night. Mama says I'm crazy, so God's the one who tucks me in and says goodnight. I want to close my eyes, but there are silent voices in the night reminding me of what happened on that day. I was walking down the street on 5th when a woman walked up to this little girl with this tattered smile, this kindred spirit, and she knelt down to me and said, "You need to go back to where you came from." Ever since then, nothing can compare to the anger pulsing into my tears. They don't know what it means to stand in thorns. Built of fear, the blue-eyed walls are now dissolving into a great king of the past is drawing near. Fully cloaked in my ancestors' tears, take me to the place they call paradise, where our screams are stripped from weeping birds of prey. I know they say maybe one day you'll be saved from your mother's womb and bloom this darkness away to light, but this anger I muster is like a seed, planted in my mind, unable to redefine paradise. Why do I make it so hard to comply? Why do you make it so hard to find? God is watching me in fright. The little girl holds her head up high, but even one day, the brightest stars will run out of light. There are voices in the night, stopping me. I can't be who I want to be, who I try to be, what they want me to be, what they expect me to be. Voices, nothing you say is helping me. My smile is now tattered. My spirit is still. I hear a voice, louder than the others. They say I know. Divines are hard to reach, young love. Keep seeking. Suddenly, the fruits of my spirit have dwindled into tiny seedlings, watered by silent prayers of the night. Suddenly, my heart has grown so much from the start. Thank you.
Hi guys, thank you so much for being here. My name is Tina Mai, and I'm going to be reading 4 poems today. So my first poem is called Good Fools, and it starts with a quote from The Great Gatsby. That's the best thing a girl can be in this world, a beautiful little fool. Daisy Buchanan, The Great Gatsby. 1. Or a beautiful silent body, nameless and voiceless, half suspended in a chokehold of compliance. People tell me that to be a girl is to be all censored sweetness, to get used to the way they hold you in their teeth like a cigar, the way they crack your bones into statuettes so you are too concrete stiff to run away. Daughters learn to suck a void into their bellies so they are small enough to fit on a platter, best served cold, best served with the power drained from their veins, best served as a 90-pound nymph carved hollow because only that is light enough to keep from sinking. How dare we take up space in a world that isn't ours? 2. I am 16 years old and looking for something to call mine, a half-sunken legacy, a forgotten name, a poem like the humanity in our hands, brutal and alive. Even space-time can't measure the space we feel when we bury our home and our mother tongue, because to you, our skin is a sin, our voice a vice, and you tell us to watch how we hold our tongues as if we are stealing bullets, as if we are stealing words like lovely bullets in our mouths, graceless enough to burn, defiant enough to be remembered. 3. Growing up, my mother's arms stretched like accordions, a cathedral in her night-black eyes. But mothers are afraid to tell their daughters the world can be unforgiving, that there are people who want us to squirm in muted bodies that never belong to us. We learn that growing older is knowing how to swallow our voicelessness like a pill, to hold our ambitions and our throats until we choke, as if all we can say is yes, yes, as if all we can be is another generation locked inside a cage, well-behaved but burning. 4. I am 16 years old and learning how to keep my voice in a fist and my body afraid of the dark. You want a better story, and I understand. Who wants to hear a story where the hero never finds the gold, trapped inside the belly of a beast the way little girls scream but aren't heard? My grandmother tells me to bury my hopes so there is nothing they can take away. There is nothing left to lose as an accessory without a name. No other way to break. So I sharpen my ambition like a switchblade in the dark, and I tuck it like a secret, as if to scorch with sin, as if to lie supine on starstruck guilt, as if to say, I'm sorry, but I don't know what for. 5. In our dreams, we escape our bodies on a night train into the Milky Way, the way my ancestors escaped their drowning village on a stolen ticket, then begged for forgiveness when they chain us back and tell us we are not allowed to dream. So instead, we are left to catch fire and scorch until we have no bodies left to surrender. 6. I am 16 years old and tired of growing pains and silent names and all the things they told us we couldn't be. To grow up is to twist my limbs and wrestle for a future that is mine. To stand up is to know my voice is not a vice and my body not an accessory, and to rise up is to say, to all those who want a better story, I'm sorry. For the good little fools we refuse to be. And then my second poem is called Paper Daughters. My grandmother lives in the forgotten story of the women who collected firewood and water and blistered their skin with sweat. Her first home was an oblivion of nameless daughters, their faces freckled with waters of kudzu, their fingers bleached with rice. Just out of reach, their relentless, roaring hearts. I watch her carry the earth's burden and bury fistfuls of limping memories into the ground. She tells me about my heritage bleeding from river towns, the currents skiving the pearly bones of my ancestors. Together, we fold paper stars, but deep down she remembers paper daughters dampened into pulp. In my dreams, I count the girls left out of the narrative, trace my grandmother into the lore of their skin. I wonder if, to her, I am another daughter lost, or the hope she had buried away in her village long ago. In any case, I will inscribe new homes for her story, a paper kingdom born from bone. My next poem is another short one called Sampans. We grow up with the fishermen and the boys whose lips bleed of dissent. In the dark, we press prayers to our tongues for the grandmothers who grew out of village bones and for the daughters we never knew. I try to forget the home beyond the shore. I try to forget the fish-eyed boys, the warmth of fins dissected in their palms. My father prays, the air only drips with incense scumming through the throat of ancestors. Like skin, they are needled into a mother's pale belly, a heritage I fold myself into for ascendancy. I remember not the kisses lodged with fresh water, not the monsoon stitching our bodies against the banks, but the summer when our accents went out like a house fire, or when the sturgeons gutted themselves clean like a piece of mama's throat still in the village, still trying to be lost. She will tell me about her poreless tongue. She will tell me about our bodies bobbing like sampans off the shore, grateful and half drowned. And my last poem is a poem I dedicated to my parents called Atlas. 1. Mother hid me in the spaces between bones so I can sketch across the unknown of my flesh, so my topography is pressed flat with her immigration, so we are not smudged into the bruises of the earth. Where she was from, women grew from water, their heritage held in the jade of the river's womb like echoes stitched against the shore. If they could carve words out of water, then we could carve narratives from our skin, prayers from our lungs for all the daughters raised from bone, bodies from our bloodlines for all the ancestors without faces, without stories. We could sketch wingspans to wrap us in an equator, a latitude drawn from the outlines of our mothers, flowing, flightless. 2. My father in the picture is but a projection, a legacy suspended in 5 dimensions, preserved in roots. And in his stories, he is but a boy with a lineage beneath the river, a gaze reeled in by the fisherman's rod, a cartographer of his own origin. Like him, we hold on to action films and weave quests into our biography, maybe because the hero looks like a reflection we had once seen in a dream. Like him, I know what it means to trace the smudges on a treasure map and run away with nothing but a compass and blind ambition, and I know the truth when they say immigrants cannot be heroes. We cross oceans not as quests, but as whole generations, and he is like Atlas holding up the world for us, chasing all the things we left behind. 3. Perhaps someday I will be able to realize my skin is the map of the world, but today I can only whisper my name and compare my birthplace to paper towns, to the heroes they don't believe will ever be, to the memory of a daughter contoured in borders and bone. Today, I can only begin my quest to find my narrative in a land washed away and my heritage in the ocean whose waves won't turn back, will not stop their dance until they wipe out the coordinates of the shore. 4. Maybe then I can plot where I'm meant to be. Thank you.
So big round of applause for our OC Youth Poet Laureate, TMI. First one, and then I want to invite the other young poets to come forward as well, if you feel comfortable enough. At this point, I'd like to make some time for questions from the audience or praise, or we create a safe space for youth, so we often don't. I ask personally, not them, that you don't ask personal questions, but more questions on their craft and words of praise for their work. So, any questions or words of praise?
I'll go first. So, my name is Alan Wolford, and I came here today with Kieu. Okay, you'll record for me. Thank you. It's recording right now. With Kieu, the legendary actress. So very honored to have her here today. Thank you, Sarah, for inviting us. Myself, I'm a film producer. Along with her son is Jean-Pierre. He's an actor and singer as well. So again, after hearing all your poem, we're very proud of your work. You're very young, but still have a long journey ahead and a bright future ahead for you guys. So this is not like a critique, but from my point of view. So this is what I like to see, so we can learn together, so we can improve. What I like the most is when you memorize your poem. So when you deliver it and memorize it, I think it's even better. Okay, so I just learned that too as well. And then stories that you tell about your family, about your dreams, about your family as well. Again, you don't need to apologize. Like she's right. We all here as human beings. We don't have to apologize for the languages that we speak. Vietnamese, Latin, Mexican, or whatever. Yeah, just be proud of who you are. Yeah. And for me, on your poem, I would rather not use the word always, because sometimes always has to be 100%. I would not use the word everything, always everything. So I would try to shy away from those words because it's not as accurate. Like one of the things you said, I would never apologize. but then you just did, right before that. So yeah, so those are the words. Just be careful when you use them in the poem as well. Yeah, but overall, very good. So congratulations.
Thank you. Any other words of praise or questions for our young folks? Yes?
I loved all of your words. Thank you so much for sharing. I was just wanting to know how we, as an audience, can support you, and if anyone in this group has any upcoming projects or events that you want to share with us, so that we know how to continue following your journey and supporting your work.
No current events coming up, but for anybody who would like to follow my Instagram, it's Cheyenne D. Harkless, and that'll update you on any future performances I have.
Araya and I, on Friday, we get to compete in a slam in LA that Get Lit hosts, and we're very excited about that. It's the first time they've done it in person for, I think, it's been 3 years, so it's going to be exciting to be back. And I think it's live streamed, so we'll send you the link if you want to tune in. That works. We've been prepping for that, and our team's been working hard. So, and Araya's doing wonderfully too. I'm lucky to have her on the team. So we're gonna kill it. I'm excited.
As Elora said, we will be competing for Get Lit. Elora is a wonderful team captain, and we are grateful to have her. As for me, you can also follow me on Instagram at Araya Nicole, and you will find more updates there.
Yeah, I don't really have any big performances or anything coming up, but I'm working on a publication or a zine book with Sarah. She's been really supportive, and I also have an Instagram, so Tina M. Mai.
I don't really have anything else coming up, but since everyone else is sharing, my Instagram is ogier.anna_. So thank you for coming.
And also, we're inviting all youth to submit to the community poem for and by youth that's being led by our young poet laureate, Tina Mai. Tina Mai is so gracious, she's opening it up to all youth between 13 and 21 around the world, any language, and hopes that somebody can provide an English version as well, so that we can curate it as a community for all youth everywhere. And then on top of that, yes, we are working on a book submission for Tina. But Marilyn and I are reuniting after many years of not leading the workshops for Baguio writers this summer. So we are having a 1-week intensive Baguio writers writing workshop, which is always free to youth between 13 and 21, in hopes that more youth can read writers of color, artists, get to know artists of color and local spaces that offer the arts for free, and including some of our young folks here, because one of the things that we pride ourselves in doing is teaching the works of contemporary writers, which includes peers, because we think the strongest voices for other youth are youth themselves. So. Any other questions or moments of praise?
Solamente felicidades a todas, se ven muy hermosas y es un orgullo que sean mujeres.
¿Verdad? Sí. She wished everybody congratulations and that they're all beautiful, and that most important that they're all women here presenting. And this was open to everyone, just so you know.
Where's the boys?
Yeah, I don't know. You gotta ask your folks that. But this is always. We're very fortunate to have a lot of role models in our community that give us an opportunity to step up and take the mic, right? And the mic might not always work at the best, but we ourselves are always here to use our voice. And that's one of the things that I really appreciated too, to see this beautiful lineup of young women. It makes me very proud, and also gives me a lot of hope for the future, right? So congratulations to all of you.
Sarah, can I add something? Can I add something real quick? So since Chinh and I are in the film industry, have you ever thought about writing script for movies or even dialogue for documentary?
Oh,
Yeah? Okay, you got hand up.
That is the goal.
So my goal is to incorporate my poetry with filmmaking. So at NYU, I'll be studying dramatic writing, where we'll also cover script writing, and I want to go into the film industry as both a screenwriter and a director.
I have a director friend who is in what, and he's teaching at NYU.
Really, I would
So
love
we
to
can,
connect.
yeah, we can introduce you to him. Yeah.
I am positively in love with film as an art form, and my biggest dream and goal is to just be a part of that, whether that's writing, directing. I even love costume design and music, so to just be fully immersed in film is my biggest dream ever. And I've written a few scripts and I'm working on more.
Great.
Yes, I'm what Cheyenne said. I completely agree. That's my goal. I would love to write and direct movies and plays. And Youth Playfest just happened at OSHA, and we got Ryan and I got to write and direct plays. And it's just, I love it. It's so much fun.
Can you pass the mic to Anna? So since we were talking about film, is there other interests that you have to go with your writing? I know that being at Godinez, you have a very supportive, selective and supportive teachers.
Yeah.
So where do you see your writing going in the future?
Honestly, I started writing again because of my teachers. I stopped for a while because I had a really busy schedule with, especially high school got really busy and it became really stressing. And I found no room to write anymore. But this year my teachers really pushed me. They were like, you should really do it again, and I did. And here I am. And hopefully I still am able to find time to write, to be able to maybe someday publish a book or something, because that's always been my goal since middle school.
Yeah, I mean, moving back to the topic of film, I've always been really mesmerized by it. I love the Joy Luck Club, it's amazing. And then a friend and I are probably going to be working on some spoken word films this summer, and I'm also taking film next year, so I'm excited to get into film production and maybe even writing plays and stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. I always feel like this is a contestant answer, right? What is the change you want to be in the world, right? But I also, it's not so much, I don't want to ask what's the change you want to be in the world, but what is the change that you've seen your words or your work in high school already create? Because sometimes as youth, people one, automatically underestimate you, and two, they assume that you can't do anything until you're a quote unquote adult, right? But what are some of the things that you have been able to advocate for, whether it's through poetry or just another form of advocacy in your via your education and your community?
Okay, I'll start. I guess I do agree with the point that a lot of times youth aren't really given the opportunity to sort of do their own projects or pursue what they believe in. So I guess what I really tried to do is go out there and to be able to create those opportunities for myself, because I'm not always given them. So 2 years ago, I decided to build an app, and that was supposed to open up accessibility for blind and visually impaired writers so that they're able to create their works, to create writing with their voice, essentially. And I have to teach myself coding for that, which is really rough. But I also, for National Poetry Month, I'm trying to create a literary and arts magazine, because my school hasn't had one for 2 decades. So I had to work with a lot of administration, and there was also some pushback from that, just because with funding and with printing and everything, we haven't had anything like that. So we also had to work closely with my English teacher, who I'm really grateful for, in order to make that happen. But yeah.
Great.
As for me, this was my first year where I had the opportunity, as Laura mentioned, to write and direct my first play. And through that experience, I learned that just the fact that we are all standing here right now, and the fact that we all chose to apply / just chose to participate in this event is so powerful. And representation is important, because without representation, we can't educate people about our culture, about our history. We can't connect or heal or unite people without, just standing here today. So yeah.
So as you said about the whole representing our culture and stuff, it really it gave me a push to be able to write these poems, because I know there's a lot of Latinos in my school who are like afraid to step up to how they feel. And I saw, and they've told me that by hearing my poems, they felt like they were seen, and it felt really good in a way. It felt really good to know that I was there to be able to help them realize how they were feeling and to how do I say this? Be able to express themselves more. And I'm glad that they know that I'm here, and I'm also Latino, and I'm also a woman of color who understands how they're feeling. So it just felt really nice to know that I wasn't alone and that they weren't alone.
Well, a lot of the change that I've been lucky to see has come side by side with being involved in and now being vice president of my school's Black Student Union. Araya is one of our presidents, actually. And so through that, I've been able to give a lot of performances at my school and hopefully elevate our kind of existence as a club and as a Black voice. And as well as the last poem I performed, The Voices That Speak Dreams into Life, I was hoping to provide not only an awareness that there does need to be more representation in the media, but also hopefully a sort of catharsis. The poem, especially when I performed it for the competition OC Rise, was very cathartic for me. And I was hoping to have provided that for a lot of other just young people and people in general who felt that they weren't represented in media, and to hopefully bring more representation in after having that cathartic moment.
I completely agree with Cheyenne. I think that poetry and performing, it really is cathartic, and it gives you, especially performance poetry, it gives you an opportunity to kind of share a little piece of your heart that you don't really get to bring up in normal conversation. You know, it gives you an excuse to be vulnerable and to share what you're thinking. But it can be kind of an intimidating world, I think, to break into. You know, when you watch on button poetry on YouTube and you go to slams, and you're like, how do these people do it? Like, oh my goodness, like it can be very intimidating. So what I wanted to do this year was kind of open it up and make it so that slam poetry was more accessible to people at my school, and that people felt like they had what they needed to compete in these competitions and to reap the benefits of poetry and being able to express yourself. So I started an after school team class called For Crying Out Loud, and we met on Fridays, and we started from the very beginning, went over the basics, and then every week we would workshop stuff, and the goal was just to kind of have a low stakes, low stress, safe place to kind of learn the ropes and get ready for slam season, because slam is for everybody. It can be an intimidating world to break into, I think. And yeah.
So one of the reasons that for me it was really important to have this presentation today was to honor Tina Mai as our first OC Poet Laureate. Yes. She's done a beautiful job. She's very busy, let me tell you, because we have to have monthly check-ins, and I have to be tracking. I have to keep up with her schedule rather than her keep up with my schedule. But also to invite the current poets to ask me questions about the application process, because it is an application process. And although, there's a question. Okay. We'll do.
We have comments.
Okay. Do you want to do some comments first, and then we'll go into the OC Poet Laureate application?
Okay, we got a comment from Tomatio88. Hi from Texas. Thank you for sharing your work. All of you are phenomenally talented. And your artistry is truly something to celebrate. Keep up the amazing work and be proud.
All the way to Texas.
Then we have another comment from Mary Camarillo,
Who's an
author
here.
of the Lockhart Women here in the local section.
Great.
It says, thank you, Libre Mobile, for facilitating community. And you also got a lot of clapping emojis and hearts.
We love the clapping emojis and hearts, don't we? So part of the Orange County Poet Laureate, like Youth Poet Laureate application process, which is a hard one for me because I don't like gatekeeping at all, but I do like initiative and community engagement. And so working with the Urban Word, which is the national organization who does the Youth Poet Laureate program from state to state, one of the important things that called to me about the way they organize is that it's not just about poetry. It's about civic engagement and social justice issues that youth feel important to represent and advocate for. And so that's part of the application process. A lot of folks think that, oh, if I won all kinds of awards and I have poems that I want to read, that's enough. And it's like, no, that's only 50%. The other 50% is civic engagement and social justice issues. I do want to present some things that are general questions, and then you all can ask one or two questions of me, right? Especially Tina and Araya, who's already been through the process of things that you think maybe people need me to clarify so that they get encouraged to apply, right? Because one of the things that always stood out to me as a Chicana from Santana, one of the things that I can disclose as a judge is that we had only, I believe, one youth that was of Latinx background. And that is very hard for me to process when this program is starting in Santa Ana, which is more than 80% Latinx, right? And that means we are failing our youth to have that empowerment to submit an application. And although we had such an amazing group to judge, and it was really hard, it came down to like little tiny numbers. That was one of the things, like, we are still not doing our work if we're not reaching all the youth and equitably, right? So that's why I wanted to make sure that the youth can ask me questions, as challenging as they may be to answer, so that way we can clarify for the rest of the youth here in Orange County to continue to apply, right? So some of the general things that I tell people that are basic information. People ask all the time, do poet laureates have to reside in Orange County? Yes. Poet laureates need to have a direct connection to the region and reside in Orange County. The only laureate that we make an exception for are the youth, because we understand that sometimes they get accepted to amazing colleges and go away, right? But the fact that they went to school here and means they can still serve their community as relevant role models. So the adults do have to reside in Orange County. The youth, if you are applying when you're in Orange County and you get accepted to a fabulous school outside of Orange County, we're going to still honor your application. So that's the only exception we make for that one. Can poet laureates hold previous poet laureate positions in Orange County or other regions? Yes, but all applicants will be evaluated under the same criteria. So just because you held the poet laureate position before doesn't mean you automatically get the one here in Orange County. The next question, do poet laureates need to be a U.S. citizen? No, we accept applications from all residents in Orange County. Is there an honorarium for appointed OC poet laureates? Yes. Libre Mobile is making arrangements now to provide poet laureates with a budget. The amount is not disclosed publicly until OC poet laureates are appointed. We do not want monetary compensation to be an incentive, but honor that payment for time and programming is necessary. And one of the reasons that we believe in that is because we don't want people to apply just to get money. That is not the point of this appointment. However, we also believe in equitable practices for payment, and what we do is, as a representative of Libre Mobile, I convey to anyone that approaches me about the young poets, whether it's the honorable mention or the OC Poet Laureate, that they got to get paid for their time. So I advocate for that, and that's one of the things that's important to me. So when I make partnerships in the community, I tell them, you have to pay them if you're going to come in. And many times people say, why can't they do it for free? They're poet laureates. I'm like, because they already did the work to get them to this appointment. And the goal is for them to find value in themselves. And if we're not showing them how to do that, we're not doing that, we're not raising, folks that should be, running the government or civic engagement or council members, right? Like, if we are saying that they're what they bring to our community is valuable, then we should be paying them for their time, regardless of age, right? So those are the general, questions that I get often, but what are some questions, and I know these are going to be the way harder ones, what are some questions you have for me?
What does the schedule of a poet laureate usually entail? Is there a lot of community service, performances, civic engagement? What does that kind of entail in terms of schedule and activities?
Before you're appointed, it's whatever you give me on your application. I'm like, wow, okay, you've done a lot of work, right? Once you're appointed, I check in and I say, tell me what you can and can't do. This appointment is more about you than it is about the title, because you already did the work to get the appointment, right? You can ask Tina. The one thing that we work hard on is just to have a once a month check-in, her and I. And it's hard with busy schedules on both ends, right? And so I'm not gonna be like, where were you last week, you know? And then she's gonna be like, where were you last week, you know? But we check in and we communicate via text and email. I only obligate folks to 4 events, and I schedule them for you, and they're paid events if they're not with us. So you're only obliged to 2 with us for free, or 2 or 3, I can't remember, because the first one doesn't count because we're celebrating, right? And so then I say then 2 other ones. So like this one is one, and the Literary Arts Festival was another one. And that was it. I mean, because unless she wants to pursue more, then I'm gonna find a way to make it happen. And as far as community hours, we don't believe in that, because we feel you already put in the community hours before you got appointed. And so anything that you want to add to it is great. We're going to make it happen. But we're not going to sit there and say, go to this reading, go to that reading, because we don't have that much money to pay you. And so, and we're not going to obligate you to do all this free labor, right? Because we're trying to prove to society that you're already doing the work. Other than that, we do have a partnership with Orange County Public Libraries, and they have they have committed that they can make sure that you get paid up to 4 events if you were to do up to 4 events with them. So that way they have it's their job to get the honorary. And we do the same for honorable mention. It's not just the poet laureate, but when Araya is speaking here today, as well as at the library, we're advocating that she gets paid. So you get paid. And then anything else as far as like a project, that's one thing we keep talking about. Like, what are some things you want to do? And I'll be honest, like, you know what, we really don't have money to do that. What else can we do? Or I'll say, oh, you know what, I think we can do that. Like the community poem is something it took us a while to get there, and then but once we got there, we're like, oh yeah, this is what we can do. But you as the poet laureate, it's really up to you. How much time do you have, and what do you want to do?
So are registered community service hours required for the application?
We look at the application as a whole, so you should have civic engagement. It's not necessary. I'm not asking to give me 200 community service hours. I'm not looking at quantity, I'm looking at quality. So when there is a whole part of the application that asks about your civic engagement. And you tell me what you've done, and then we quantify that. And it's 50%. So if you haven't done anything, then I would say, then take some time to build that part of the resume. And it's vice versa too, because sometimes we get folks who like blow us out of the water about all the civic engagement they do, but then they don't have much published. And there has to be a balance, and that's what we're looking for. But yeah, if you want to quantify it and you want to say, I've given 225 hours of community engagement, I'm going to want to know, what did you do during those 225 hours? Not so much about the hours, but about what the work that's being done.
All right, thank you.
Can I?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
I'm nosy too much.
That's okay. We like nosy people.
So Sarah, just question for the ladies. Have you have like a Facebook page where you publish all their work?
No.
Or what about like their video of them reading?
Yes. On Libre we have, that's why we have the iPad running right now. It's IGTV, so we do post it on there. But as far as their printed work, no, because that's their quality work, and we want to make sure it gets published. If they choose to share it on their own avenues, that's up to them. Like with Tina, we're working on getting her submitted to, so she can submit to a publisher and doing it officially. Because the other part is also giving them the information to become published authors if they want. I always say there's also cons to doing it before you even finish college, because then you already have a book out, and there's a lot of scholarships and degrees that are like emerging which don't want people with a book yet. So I always tell people to weigh that out. And also because you're younger, so 5-10 years from now, you may not want that book out. That happened to me. I have my first book, but I'm kind of like, oh, that needs a lot of edits. So there's that. You have to really be ready, right? And it's okay if you're not and you still want to do it. I support that as well.
So does Libre Mobile comprise all the talents together into like one book and publish it on an annual basis?
We have zines and people, it becomes an initiative as a collective, not necessarily me seeking it, but them wanting it. Because I sat down with Tina and we weighed them out, and then after a few months she goes, you know what, I do want to do this. And I said, okay, let's do it. And that's what we're working on. Her final month, she's working on her manuscript so we can submit it to a publisher.
All right. Wonderful.
Any other questions? Parents? Family? No? All right, so how many of you are applying this year? All right, you're not going to apply again? I put you on the spot. You're honorable mention. Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. And have your friends apply. And we will continue to do more workshops. Tell your teachers and administrators, and I'm more than happy to go in and do an info session and talk about the process, because we want to make sure that you all know what the process is, and that when you fill out the application, you can fill it out to the best of your knowledge, right? And the application is open already as of yesterday, as well as the community poem. That was open as the 8th. So invite youth between 13 and 21 to apply to be Poet Laureate, but also to submit to the community poem for youth, for and by youth with Tina Mai. So thank you all.